your questions, getting your answers. This is your show. Here's your host, Adam Schrager.
Good morning and welcome to your show for Sunday, August 31st. We're back at our regular time this morning after a pretty fulfilling week, posing your questions each night to some of this country's top political leaders, both Democrat and Republican. Later on in the program, we're going to preview tonight's CU-CSU football game with ESPN college football analyst Lee Corso. But we start this morning covering the national conventions. We are joined by former Colorado Governor Bill Owens. Thank you so much, sir, for being on your show.
It's good to be back with you.
Let's jump right into it. Sheila Sale writes in, my question is, how can you, or anyone for that matter, think that Senator McCain has our best interests in mind when he picks someone like the inexperienced governor of Alaska as his running mate, Jessica Page from Lakewood? John McCain's vice presidential selection of Sarah Palin is a joke. If she was a man, her resume wouldn't have even been looked at. Selecting an unqualified person, she writes, that he's met twice in his entire career doesn't seem like country first to me. Your thoughts?
You know, I would obviously respectfully disagree with the two folks who have emailed you, because I think that she's a great choice. I think that John McCain has said he's the candidate for change. Throughout John McCain's career in Washington, D.C., he has, when needed, fought his own party, stood up for the country. I like to think of John McCain as country first. And Governor Palin is the same way. She has consistently gone after even the Republican Party when she believes that the Republican Party has been corrupt. And if you look at her record as a mayor, look at her record on the Alaska Oil and Gas Conservation Commission, look at her record as governor, she has put her state first. I think the reason why John McCain picked her is because of her judgment, not because of her resume. We'll compare John McCain's resume any day to Barack Obama's, and I'm also very proud of what Governor Palin's going to bring to this ticket.
You have heard from the Democrats. You heard a little bit there, but the Democrats have basically said on a campaign that Senator McCain has run, claiming that Senator Obama doesn't have the experience, the selection of Governor Palin as a vice presidential nominee kind of takes something away from that argument. Ron Casibo writes in, please tell me Senator McCain chose her for a real reason other than political capital. Seriously, she has no experience on the world scene, let alone the national one.
And I think there again, what we have is we have our presidential candidate who clearly has that experience. You compare John McCain's experience to Barack Obama's, and for my Democratic friends, let's worry about the president first, and let them tell me that Barack Obama, who 4 years ago was an Illinois state legislator, has the experience to be president. I think that Governor Palin clearly has the experience to be vice president behind a strong president like John McCain's going to be. Again, for my Democratic friends, if they don't think that Governor Palin has the experience to be vice president, let's talk to them about their presidential candidate's lack of experience. As Hillary Clinton said, he gives a good speech.
Let's even step back then. Stepping back and looking forward, Cheryl Condon from Arvada wants to know, what kind of an impact do you think that Senator McCain's pick of Governor Palin is going to have on the Republican convention this week?
You know, it's going to be interesting because that convention is obviously being overshadowed by Hurricane Gustav, which is, as we speak, is approaching the Louisiana coast. I think it's going to help that convention. I think that Governor Palin is exactly the sort of new types of politics we need. A woman of integrity, a woman of judgment, a woman of life experience. I mean, 5 kids, you look at how she's been that proverbial hockey mom, and I think it's going to add some real energy to that convention. I think we're going to win this race. I think that Barack Obama did a good job with his convention speech, but again, as Hillary Clinton says, that's what he does best.
There's an individual who will not be part of the Republican National Convention this upcoming week who's a Republican, that being Congressman Ron Paul, and his supporters have written in by the droves when we had him on the program, and also a couple of them asked questions of you, and I just wanted to read you one. Jeremy Sias writes in and says, why is the party intent on purging itself of Dr. Ron Paul and his supporters, myself included, when he's one of only a few true conservatives left in our party? He's going to be having a rally outside the convention. Why is he not being brought into the fold, so to speak?
Well, first of all, I would disagree with the premise. There are many true conservatives in the Republican Party, including myself. It doesn't mean that we're always going to agree with a Ron Paul. Ron Paul wants an immediate pull out of Iraq. Most conservatives don't. Ron Paul's views on a number of issues actually differ from traditional conservative thought. Why is Ralph Nader kept out of the Democratic Convention? I didn't see Ralph Nader inside the Democratic Convention. Each party has its people that aren't necessarily part of that party sometimes. Ralph Nader on the Democratic side, former Congresswoman McKinney of Georgia, who's running as the Green candidate, wasn't in the Democratic Party. As soon as Ron Paul endorses John McCain and wants to be part of the party, gosh, we'd love to have he and his many supporters back.
So we talked with Ralph Nader last week. He's now running as an independent candidate for president. Well, let's look at some of the issues, because I think that's what this election hopefully will be decided upon. Damon Duffy writes in and says, as a young Republican watching the acceptance speech of Senator Obama, I could not help but feel that he made some legitimate points. As the election draws near, I find myself with a tough decision, he writes. Do I trust my party to make the necessary changes in policy, both foreign and domestic, to allow my family and others a better chance for success?
You know, I think that's a great question, and here's how I'd answer it. As I watched Barack Obama's speech, I saw some things that I agreed with. What I really don't know is, where does Barack Obama stand? For the years that he was in the Illinois legislature, he was a traditional, normal, Democratic liberal. Did not fight the establishment on anything. Voted liberal on every issue. For the 4 years that he's been Senate, or at least for the 2 years that he's actually been at the Senate when he wasn't running, he's also been a traditional liberal Democrat. For the time he ran against Senator Clinton, he ran to her left. Since he's got the nomination, look at what he's done. On the federal intelligence vote, reversed his vote. I would argue has reversed his position on Iraq. On NAFTA, wearing a flag, does he or doesn't he? Issue after issue, Barack Obama has moved rapidly to the center. Now, I like the center for the Democratic Party, because if you care about the country, liberalism doesn't work. I don't know where he stands. I don't know, was his speech where he sounded moderate on so many issues the real Barack Obama, or was his lifetime of votes before? Not sure.
So to Damon's question, though, can he trust Senator McCain to make those necessary changes in policy, both foreign and domestic?
And thanks for following up, because John McCain has proven himself time after time to have the strength, the level of integrity, the courage, stands up against his own party repeatedly when he thinks the party is wrong. Has stood up to President Bush when he thought President Bush was wrong. And so I think that, yes, a gentleman who can do what he did as a young man who, for the 5 years he was imprisoned, wouldn't accept early release because it would break his honor code, wouldn't give his captors what they wanted because it would break his honor code. Yeah, he'll do what he says as president.